The science of COVID collapsing in real time is at least sometimes amusing. It's pretty annoying that we shut down society for 2 years and upended people's lives and took away our rights and destroyed the economy and on and on and on. That's annoying. I don't mean to downplay that. But there is something funny about the people who scream until they're red in the face, blue in the face. They say, you have to get your 17th booster shot and wear 57 masks wherever you go. Oh yeah, I got COVID for the 5th time this year. Wait, I guess your strategy's not working. They say, no, thank goodness I got my 75th booster. Otherwise, it would have been much worse. Which they say based on nothing at all. The people who told us, made a declarative statement about what the vaccines would do, that they would stop you from catching and spreading the virus, then that was completely false. They say, no, but believe us on this hypothetical, because we would be totally right there. So there was something somewhat amusing about that. When the science collapse around an issue like transgenderism, it's considerably less amusing, because on the issue of transgenderism right now, specifically transing the kids, you have these adults, some of whom are just psychos and some of whom are just ignorant. They are, for whatever reason, malice or stupidity, really, really messing up really little kids' lives and giving them osteoporosis at a young age and sterilizing them and conducting some of the most heinous medical experiments that have ever been conducted on some of the most vulnerable people that you possibly can. And so that's not so funny, okay? And they're doing it based on the science. They're doing it based on this one claim, I promise you've heard it, which is that if we don't trans the kids, if we don't put kids on puberty blockers and pump them full of cross-sex hormones and sterilize them and completely transform their bodies, they'll kill themselves. If you don't indulge transgender ideology, you're just leading your kid by the hand to go commit suicide. What, would you rather have a dead daughter or a living son? That's the kind of stuff that they say. It's not just the libs who say it, or it's not just the nominally liberal institutions. It's even Fox News. We played this clip yesterday. Fox News, the purportedly conservative cable news channel, came out and used these exact kinds of lines.
There was a father who was sitting across the table. He says, you have no idea how lucky you are to be here, which kind of took me back. I didn't at that point consider myself lucky to be there. And he said, our child had displayed this gender dysphoria or this gender misalignment at the same age that Rylan has. And we didn't listen and we pushed back.
That pushback led that child to turn to self-harm as a teenager, which 60% of trans and non-binary kids engage in, according to the Trevor Project. More than 50% consider suicide.
That for me was the turning point. I didn't want to see Rylan to go through that.
I'd rather have a living son than a dead daughter. I guarantee that if we had pushed back and done what a lot of parents do, I don't think that we would have either one of the kids that you see before you here today.
There it is, all the hits. I'd rather have a living son than a dead daughter. What would you want your kid to die? I've got statistics. I've got the science from the Trevor Project, a radical LGBT organization. So what are you going to do? And what they're offering you here is a kind of Faustian bargain. They're offering you here a little bit of a deal with the devil, which is they're saying, look, even if you don't believe that the little girl is actually a little boy, you should lie. You should tell a lie. You should do something that is intrinsically immoral, and you should do it for a good end. Because if you don't lie, and if we as a society don't all lie and pretend that the little boys are little girls and vice versa, then they're all going to kill themselves. So if you want the good end, you need to commit this immoral act. And they present this scientific evidence, so-called, to say, but you will get the good end. The child will not commit suicide if you lie and mutilate his or her genitals and put them on cross-sex hormones. Then the kid won't kill him or herself. The thing about Faustian bargains, the thing about deals with the devil, is they don't work. They don't. Something always goes wrong. And we're seeing it go wrong right here in the science. It turns out that all that science, all those fancy numbers and statistics about how if you mutilate your kids' genitals, then they won't commit suicide, It's just fake. It's just made up. Like so much of the politicized science that we've heard about in recent years, this one is just fake too. At least that's what the more credible, reputable science says. There's a very important new study out of the Heritage Foundation. This is by J.P. Green. Shows that easing access to puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones has only not decreased youth suicide rates, it's actually increased youth suicide rates. This is contrary to the claims of the Trevor Project and the Biden administration and Fox freaking News, for goodness sakes. It's contrary to this prior flawed research that the liberal establishment is touting right now. So the paper is complicated. You can go read it over at the Heritage Foundation. But the broad strokes of it is puberty blockers are introduced around 2010. Starting around 2015, they really start to accelerate. You can check this by looking at internet trend data, Google trend data, searches for these kinds of terms: puberty blockers, transgender, dysphoria, gender identity disorder. And so what J.P. Green did here is he compared the youth suicide rates in states where it is easier for minors to get the puberty blockers to states where it is harder for minors to get the puberty blockers. After 2010, after the introduction of all this stuff, youth suicide rates increase in states where it is easier for minors to access the puberty blockers and the hormones, relative to the states where it was harder. So they're controlling for differences within the states. They're just looking at the time difference. They're just looking, and they're specifically looking at this group of young people. This is really important. By 2020, there were more than 1.6 more suicides per 100,000 young people in the states that had the easier access. And because the state average is 11.1, this means that the youth suicide rate increased by 14%. So you're looking, you see a dramatic increase in suicide rates where the puberty blockers and the hormones are more easily accessible, when they become widely available, among specifically those who would be affected. This shows strong evidence that the claims about transing the kids that the libs have been making are completely false. So you think you're going to make this deal with the devil, and you say, look, I just know intrinsically that there is something wrong about chopping up my kids' genitals and putting them on cross-sex hormones and sterilizing them, but I just feel so emotionally manipulated here, and I don't have the data, and I don't have the science, and I know it's wrong in my gut, but I don't have it, and so you go ahead and do it. And what are you doing? Not only are you not decreasing the risk to your kid, you're massively increasing the risk to your kid. The simple takeaway is you cannot believe the extraordinarily politicized science. If Justin Trudeau gets COVID for the second time this year, shot up 57 times with the vaccines and the boosters and whatever else he can get, if that kind of science, which we've been told ad nauseum for the past year, is not reliable, certainly this kind of radical medical experimentation on kids is not reliable. I'm glad you liked that clip. Now, you got to ring. Bing. Bam. Wada wada ding dong. Ring that bell and subscribe. Get the notifications to The Michael Knowles Show. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, MySpace, Zanga, AOL Instant Messenger, the Fax Machine, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to The Michael Knowles Show. Leave a 5-star review. We'll see you next time.